The US housing market is experiencing some huge changes right now. In today's video, I'm going to share my own analysis of the latest trends we're seeing right now, according to Realtor.com, regarding home prices, housing inventory, new listings, and also the share of price reductions and much, much more. I have a lot to share in today's video. And by the way, if you guys are new here, I invite you to subscribe to this channel right now because I post frequent housing market updates so you guys can be more informed about whether to buy or sell a house right now. And with that said, let's begin today's video. This is a weekly video I make for you guys regarding the US housing market based on my own analysis here of Realtor.com's data. So just like my previous videos, I did not even read their article here or their analysis. Instead, if you guys want to follow along with me, go to realtor.com/research/data. I'll provide a link in the video description below here. Click on this link right here, and it takes you more or less to this information right here. I kind of changed the organization of it and also added some comments here. In any case, I actually noticed that I haven't posted a video like this in actually 3 weeks, so my apologies. Anyways, the most recent data we have is for the week ended October 14th. And by the way, I'm going to talk about asking prices, housing inventory, new listings, days on the market, and also the increase or the changes in the number of reduced price listings, and also share the share of price drops as well. This is all compared to 12 months prior to this. So for the week ended October 14th, asking prices nationwide were flat compared to 12 months ago. This is an interesting trend because prices have been relatively flat ever since June this year. We're also not seeing this sharp pullback in prices like we saw back in 2022 due to two main reasons in my personal opinion here. Number one, we have limited inventory levels. Inventory levels is still down by about 40 to 45% compared to 2019 this time. On top of that, prices were falling much faster at this time last year compared to this year. However, though, will this change though? Because we're approaching the winter months where a housing market tends to really slow down a lot. But on top of that, over the past 30 days alone, average 30-year fixed mortgage rates, according to the Mortgage News Daily, have increased by about 70 basis points or 0.7 percentage points. The average daily rate as of Friday, for example, was around 8%, again, for people with great credit buying houses right now. So obviously that's going to impact home buying demand in the coming months here, but also ironically, it's also impacting the supply side as well because a lot of people don't want to sell their house in which they have a 3% rate, for example, and buy a new house at 8% right now. So the rise in rates is increasing demand, but also decreasing supply as well. Now, speaking of that, let's have a look at inventory levels because last week that actually decreased by 2.7% compared to the same time frame in 2022. This also marks the 17th consecutive week in which active listings or inventory levels is down on a year-over-year basis. Inventory levels is also down year-over-year as well due to the fact that inventory was spiking during the summer and fall months last year at a much faster decrease or much faster increase compared to this year. In contrast, inventory is only up slightly so far this year. I have a really good, in my opinion, really good analysis regarding inventory levels this year compared to last year here. So this is according to outsourceresearch.com. For the week ended October 13th, there was 546,000 homes for sale. 1 year ago, 567,000. That's a decrease of 4%. So we have approximately 21,000 fewer homes for sale nationwide compared to 12 months ago. That's a decrease of 4%, which is a night and day difference compared to late February this year. Late February this year, we saw a giant increase of 76% in the number of houses for sale compared to late February 2022. Some very big changes here. What is happening right now with the US housing market? How does that compare to what happened last year? And here's my own analysis here. So we have approximately 74,000 more homes for sale right now compared to the start this year. So year to date up by 74,000. That's an increase of 16% year to date so far this year. Compare this to last year though, have a look at this. Last year, there was 275,000 more homes for sale compared to the first week last year. And that represented a giant increase of 94% more homes for sale at this time last year compared to the start of last year. So year to date last year, we were up by 94%, whereas this year only up by 16%. That's why prices were tanking in the last half last year. And that's really one of the reasons why we're not seeing that sharp pullback in prices this year. One thing I do want to mention though is that inventory has been increasing very slowly ever since April, which I'll share with you guys here in a little bit. This is mainly due to seasonality. In other words, inventory tends to peak in the late summer months. But on top of that, supply is rising as well due to a pullback in demand. So think of it this way. If fewer houses get sold and if fewer houses get under contract with a home buyer, that increases inventory each and every week, right? As more new listings hit the market. So the rise in inventory levels this year, as well as last year, in fact, is really due to a pullback in demand and not due to a giant increase of new listings hitting the market. Something else that's very important to notice as well is that even though we're down by 4% year over year, compare this to the same week of 2019, obviously pre-COVID levels, we're down by about 42%. This means we're missing approximately 390,000 fewer homes for sale this year compared to pre-COVID levels. And of course, that's limiting the price decreases we're seeing thus far this year. Now, don't take my word for it. Have a look at this. Here's altosresearch.com regarding inventory levels. 546,000 right now, a little bit below last year at 567,000, but at 546,000, well below 2019 at 935,000, and also in late October 2018 at 959,000. I'll say one of the main reasons why we're seeing historically low levels in the number of houses actually for sale right now is because of this. New listings last week decreased by 4.4%. But that's not the biggest takeaway though, because now this marks the 67th consecutive week in which new listings decreased on a year-over-year basis, dating all the way back until early July of 2022. Every single week, new listings were down compared to the previous year. Something worth noting here is that we're only seeing single-digit decreases though for about a month or so. Going back to mid-August to be exact, only seeing single-digit decreases, which is much different compared to the weeks before that, because before that we had 16 consecutive weeks of double-digit decreases in the number of new listings. Due to the fact we're only seeing single-digit declines in the number of new listings for about 2 months now, compared to the double-digit decreases for before that, this implies that new listings were falling much faster last year due to the sharp increase in rates. So new listings really fell off a map at this time last year, whereas this year, new listings are increasing very, very slightly over the past month or so, but we're still down compared to 1 year ago, just not down as much. So for example, back in mid-June, for example, we were down by about 26%. Now we're laying down by 4.4%. One thing I added in my last video I made for you guys, which was about 3 weeks ago, I added this because I said that the year-over-year change in the number of new listings will likely turn positive very, very soon. Something worth noting here is that we're actually moving in the opposite direction though. So it was getting more narrow compared to last year, but over the past couple weeks now, it actually has been increasing actually for past 2 weeks. It went from a decrease of 1.2, then decrease of 3.2. Now it's down by 4.4%. So it'll be interesting to see if we get into positive territory in about a month or so. But based on the most recent stats we have right now, it appears that the number of new listings is going to be down compared to 1 year ago for a little bit longer than anticipated. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about days in the market, how fast houses are selling right now. In fact, for the previous 2 weeks now, houses are selling faster compared to 12 months ago, 1 day faster to be exact. This is much different compared to the previous year. So from August of 2022 through August of 2023, houses were taking slower to sell compared to the previous year. And now over the past 2 weeks now, houses selling faster, which is exactly what I said about a month ago, because 1 month ago I said here that the difference between this year and last year was actually getting more narrow. So for example, in July 1st, it was taking about 13 days longer to sell a house. And that number compared to the previous year was actually getting more narrow. And now we're actually selling houses faster. Exactly what I said 1 month ago, when we'll likely see houses selling faster compared to 1 year ago very, very soon. Then about 1 month later, houses on average selling a little bit faster compared to the prior year. Okay, let's change gears slightly again here and talk about the number of reduced price listings here. Because last week it decreased by 16.2%. So approximately 16% fewer price reductions nationwide compared to the prior year. This marks the 20th consecutive week of year-over-year decreases compared to the triple-digit gains we saw to start the year. In my personal opinion, this is actually negative, now for the past 20 weeks now, due to two main reasons. Number one, due to limited housing inventory. In other words, we have fewer options of houses to buy from home buyers, leading to fewer price reductions by home sellers. That's number one. Number two, price drops surged last year. In contrast, the share of price reductions is relatively flat so far this year. Now, speaking of the share of price drops, here is altosresearch.com. The share of price drops right now is at 38%. This means that approximately 4 of every 10 homes for sale right now have reduced their asking prices, compared to about 42% 1 year ago. But at 38%, this is still well below 2021, 2020, but on par with pre-COVID levels in 2019 as well as 2018. All right, if you guys are still watching today's video, I appreciate you. And also please consider hitting the like button as well. That definitely helps out this video and of course, my YouTube channel as well. So here's a summary for you guys because of course, that was a lot of information to go over, right? Number one, asking prices in the US have been relatively flat ever since June this year. Prices haven't been dropping from a year ago very much due to two main reasons: limited inventory levels, and also because prices were falling much faster compared to last year. However, will that change soon given the rapid rise in rates? Again, increasing by 70 basis points over the past 30 days alone. Inventory is also increasing, albeit at a very slow pace. Number two, housing inventory decreased by 3% year over year last week, according to Realtor.com. That marked the 17th consecutive week of decreases. Inventory has barely increased this year as well, only up by 74,000 year to date so far. That was only a gain of 16% versus a giant increase of 275,000 during the same time frame last year. Also, new listings have been decreasing year over year for 67 consecutive weeks, which is obviously one of the reasons why inventory is remaining at historically low levels. Also, there's approximately 40% fewer homes for sale compared to 2019 at this time. Number three, average 30-year fixed mortgage rates for people with exceptional credit have been hovering around 6.8 to 8% since late May this year. That's based on daily rates according to the Mortgage News Daily. 1 year ago, it was 7.4%, which by the way, that was last year's peak. Last year's peak was at 7.4% in late October, of course, last year. Number four, the share of price drops is roughly the same as the same week of 2018 and 19, but lower than 12 months ago. 12 months ago, the share of price drops was at 42% versus 38% right now. Number five, houses are selling 1 day faster on average nationwide over the past 2 weeks. For comparison's sake, they took longer to sell for 58 consecutive weeks. That was from August last year through August this year. Again, though, this is a lagging indicator of what our housing market was like approximately 1 to 2 months ago when the offer was accepted by the home seller. So, what are some potential huge changes ahead, given the fact that daily rates are around 8% right now? I just can't get over that. Number one, average 30-year fixed rates are about 0.6 percentage points higher today compared to 12 months ago. That causes a 6% decrease in buyers' purchasing power. Also, there's a lot of challenges that home buyers are facing right now. We have record low housing affordability, low inventory levels of existing houses, sky high rates, and of course, elevated prices as well. I think we all can agree we have a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and frankly, in our US economy and housing market as well. Number two, housing affordability is a huge hurdle for home buyers right now because rates and home prices have skyrocketed over the past several years. So for example, rates have more than doubled since 2020. And on top of that, the median sold price in September 2020 through September 2023 has increased by 27%. That's based on my nerdy analysis of the National Association of Realtors data. Meanwhile, mortgage rates in general have been on the rise ever since April. And on a national level, home sold prices have increased by 6% year to date. That's according to Redfin. So we have rising rates and prices making housing affordability even worse than it was just a couple months ago. I would say rising prices compared to 1 year ago because prices in general have been declining for about 2 months now, seasonal. In my opinion, this is not sustainable. We're going to have seasonality and giant housing affordability constraints, which will likely put downward pressure on home prices for the remainder of the year. How much so? It all depends on the direction in rates and also the balance between demand and supply. Of course, I'll definitely keep you posted. Number three, early signs of home buying demand have been absolutely all over the place. So for example, applications for home loans to buy houses fell by 21% year over year, according to the most recent data we have from the MBA, which is for the week ended October 13th. Meanwhile, their index, which is a measure of the amount of people submitting loan applications to buy houses, is really at a 28-year low, the lowest levels going back to the year of 1995. I mean, can you say that home buying demand is decreasing greatly here? Also, Redfin's most recent data shows that pending home sales decreased by 8%, whereas new listings fell by 2%. So we have a decrease in demand, but also a decrease in supply as well. Also, the National Association of Realtors reported on September 28th that pending home sales for the month of August fell by 19%. That was regarding contracts being signed between buyers and sellers of existing houses. In contrast, for sales, which is a measure of a contract being signed between a buyer and a home builder, for the month of August actually decreased as well, but not as much compared to the resale market. So for example, this August compared to July, it decreased by 9%. And that's according to the latest trends we have that was reported about 3 weeks ago from the US Census Bureau. And by the way, in about 5 days, or I should say in early next week, I'll have an update for you guys regarding new home sales for the month of September. I really like that report because that's a measure of contracts being signed between builders and buyers. So therefore, it's a really good indication of home buying demand today, even though home builders are offering all these incentives for home buyers right now, such as rate buy downs, for example. So speaking of that, as a note right there, for August compared to July, new home sales or contracts being signed decreased by 9%. So rate buy downs are becoming less effective. At least it appears that way. It's going to be really interesting to see what September looks like. Anyways, it appears our housing market is highly rate dependent. And of course, the data coming in is ever changing and real estate is local. What's happening on your street, your city may not pertain or may not apply to what's happening on a national level, right? So sellers and buyers have exited this market, leading to a dip of new listings and pending home sales as well. The lack of new supply of existing houses since last summer has led to inventory remaining at historically low levels. If homeowners continue to decide that now is not a good time to sell their houses, of course, that will limit inventory levels. The direction of our US housing market, in my opinion, will depend on unemployment rates, mortgage rates, inventory, and of course, the balance between supply and demand. And number 5, the most important one, thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome day. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.